everybody, and then welcome home, welcome home, welcome to your church, right? I'm excited to see you. As you can see, it's a different decor because the weather is magnificent, I have to say. And then I thought, let's do something a little bit more different, right? Have a bit of nature around us. That's definitely going to inspire us for sure. Now, so what I want to talk to you today about has been sort of a trigger by something that I've seen today, not today, days ago in the news, right? Which is essentially the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, that sort of blocked Kenya, from having further cuts into the electricity prices, right? Because they were concerned that that could have an impact into one of the utilities in Kenya, right? And then you know already that the, the company has some cash flow issue. So that acts sort of provoked like a huge reaction, and this is what I want us to discuss today, right? So welcome everybody. I know it's a little bit of a noisy place here, so I'm outside and I have some neighbors just having some party, but we can have a conversation, right? So we're gonna discuss about that. But before I jump into this conversation, that's what we're gonna talk about today, the grid tariff. So let me just first of all remind you. So if that's the first time that you're joining this channel, that this is a Renewables in Africa channel, and what is that we do? We demystify the renewable energy sector for you. We want to make it easy, simple for you to connect and to understand what's going on. If you're telling me that you are an investor and you want to invest into the money, into the company, because you have a lot of money, want to invest into the sector, here you'll find all the right information for you. And I promise you, if you look at all the multiple videos that we have released so far, you definitely will find at least one that is of interest for you. And if you say, on the other hand, that you are, let's say, a professional and you want to jump into the sector, and same thing, you want to have some further information because you're just not sure, where you're going, so where, what you want to do. In here as well, you'll find all the right information for you. And I promise you that, by the time you look at one or two videos that you would have selected yourself, so you definitely will have a couple of things that you've learned from the sector that's going to make you feel more confident. And on the other way, if you're saying that, listen, so I run a company and I want to decarbonize my operations, I'm really, how can I say, conscious of what's happening, in our planets, Mother Nature, and I want to make sure that my business is a business for good, and I want to do something, but I don't know what to do. Don't worry again, right? So here we're gonna make sure that you get the information that you need, right? So that's why I'm actually very excited. I'm excited to have this conversation to you today, and I promise you, you won't regret it. And we're gonna have even a guest, right? So I'm gonna tell you in a minute who he's gonna be, this guest. But first of all, let's talk about this topic. Oh, before I do that, I just want to say there's a couple of things that I'm asking you guys. Please, very simple. So if you like what I'm saying, or if you even if you don't like, but at least want to share that with other people, you definitely can share that with people that you know that may be interested by what we're talking about today, and they can learn as well from the side. You can leave a comment. I definitely will appreciate that. You can also like, because the great thing is we actually broadcasting for multiple channels. So we have YouTube, we have LinkedIn, we have Facebook, we have Twitter, and we have Telegram, right? So there's multiple channels that we're broadcasting from. We want to make sure that wherever you are, we can reach out and we can talk to you. And I'll talk to you as usually what happens is I have people sending me questions because they like to find out about one or two aspects about what I'm discussing, right? Feel free to do so. We love responding to your questions. In fact, we're here for that, right? So if you're taking some time off from my Sunday just to spend with you, is because we want to engage. We want to make sure that we can have this solid discussion with you. Again, sorry if you're hearing some background noise, but as I'm telling you, hey, I'm home here. And you are home. So welcome to your place. And let's have this discussion. So let's back into the topic. So first of all, which country are you from? So let me know in the comments. So if you don't mind, and in the country where you are, so what is your opinion about your energy prices, especially the electricity prices? Is it okay? Is it too low? Is it too high? How do you feel it? Right? Because one thing that I know for sure is most of the time in emerging markets, so the issue of electricity prices, the grid tariff, is a huge matter of concern for many people. In fact, for everyone, not just the government, but also the investors, the industry, and the population, right? And definitely concern everybody. So let me give you an example, a real example, actually. So you may or may not know, but renewables in Africa. So beside being a media platform raising awareness about renewable energy in Africa and also across the world, we also developer more in the CNI space, commercial industrial. So, and I believe it was early this year. So we were talking to one of our prospects, right? So about solar solution because we provide a fully funded solar solution. We were talking to him about that, and we made an offer, right? And we were in the middle of discussions, and halfway through the discussions, basically, what did we learn? It was in Kenya, by the way. We learned that the government obviously has passed on those, obviously those grid tariff cuts that they had, right? So it was meant to happen in two phases. First 15% and the other 15% later on in March or something like that. And Katie, as you can imagine, when you're in the middle of conversation, negotiation with a prospect, you've already set all the prices and you're hearing that the government is cutting down the price, the tariff, clearly that's having an impact. And 15%, that's not small, right? Because even in the proposal that you're given to your prospective client, you're already hoping that you're going to offer him a 50% discount. So when you see that now the grid is cutting down 50%, obviously it's sort of unbalanced the situation for you. And indeed for us, I have to say, right? So it was kind of a heartful moment, but that's what it is. Though that's what the industry we are is. So I don't know for you. So have you had that same kind of a situation? Just let me know in the comments. So I'm very curious to find out about that for you. So what is your opinion of that? So this is what happened to us. But it's good for me, or what I want to do here, it's just give you a little bit of understanding. What is the problem here? What is that people we experience in that? Because by the way, this is not just specific to Kenya. I know the life I'm having today has been triggered by what I've seen in Kenya, but clearly promise you, I've traveled in many African countries and also I've been in many places in the world to know that this is not just specific to Kenya. And the challenge or the situation that I'm saying, again, I'm just going to summarize it because that's obviously a huge problem. And by the way, and that's some people have read my LinkedIn post, they will see that in fact, this is an issue that is old as 30 years, right? So we've been talking about that over and over again. And the problem is that many of those utilities are in very, very deep financial problem. So that's what they're experiencing, and because they're in deep financial trouble, it's actually caused by, let's say, different issues. I think those problems are related to the uh, the salary mass that they're paying. So basically, the amount of salary that they're paying to the people. Some of it is due to the fuel and debt servicing costs, which is actually one of the big problem because many of those utilities obviously have a lot of debt that they need to service, and those debt are in hard currencies, in dollars, euro, and sterling, whatever. Right, it's a lot of money, and if you have, for example, local currency being devaluated, you can imagine how you can very quickly balloon. Right. They also have issues with mismanagement of the account, and sometimes, let's face it as well, corruption, and also the fact that they have struggled to collect revenue. So all of that is actually putting the company in big financial issues. And the result of that is that these companies now, they seem to have to lose the trust, not only of the customers but also the investors. Why the customer? The customer, because what they see, at least from the customer point of view, because of the how can I say that, the cost of living, it's in many of these countries, emerging markets, low compared to, I would say, developed nations. So they find that the tariff for electricity are way too high, right? And it's keep on increasing, and they worry about that. Especially if you look at now, we have an inflation. For them, it's just off the roof. And by the way, as I'm talking to you, I'm the first saying that I've been complaining about electricity costs going up, right? Because not long ago, I just received again a letter from my utility saying that they were going to increase the cost, right? We all in this together. So we feel that the cost is too high, or most of us feel that the cost is too high, right? And on top of that, so basically we're kind of losing trust. The utility sort of losing our trust. And the other thing is, we also have the investor that losing trust into those utilities. Because what they're saying is those utilities have all those problems that I mentioned: the high salary mass, they can't service the debt, the mismanagement, corruption, they can't collect the revenue. And yet again, for example, in the case of specifically Kenya, for now, but like I said, Kenya is not the only one. They want to cut down the tariff. So if you're an investor looking at that, you think that's madness. How can you cut the tariff if you can't service your debt? You can't even collect enough revenue. So where are you going? And you have actually installation that don't make sense in terms that they need to be upgraded. When you look at that, you're thinking, no, that's a big red flag. And I guess that's probably one of the reasons that sort of have big noise here. That's one of the reason why I guess you have lenders like IMF that wanted to intervene. So yeah, and we used to say that for government to stay in power, they need to provide power, right? Now we have to modify that a little bit. It's more to stay in power, you have to provide affordable power. So it's a big issue, and that's what we see all this thing ballooning. So what is the solution? It's not as simple as one main thing, like just stop them from cutting power, and we need to have like a cost reflective tariff and so on and so forth. Not that easy. For me, the way I look at that, it's almost like uh, you have like a hemorrhage. Yeah? You have a hemorrhage, and you see you're bleeding, right? If you just applying, cutting the tariff, for example, like some government would do, it's almost that you bleeding, you just taking sort of a little bit of a wipe, and you wipe it off. You keep on wiping it off. So obviously you're never gonna solve the problem like that. What you want to do probably is to find a doctor or somebody that knows what he's doing. Essentially, will look at, examine you, find the vessel, right, that is actually cut, and find a way to completely fix the hemorrhage and to stop the bleeding so you can move forward. And that's what I'm simply sort of saying here is, in a sense, for me, it clearly needs to have a deeper analysis of the whole system, the whole market, have an overview of the market to see whether it is still fit for purpose. But before actually going even further to a couple of suggestions that I could make, let me welcome in here. So my colleague and very good friends, so Mr. Oluwachwere. So Oluwachwere is the regional director for renewables in Africa in Kenya. And by the way, Oluwach, thank you to you, because it's actually thanks to your LinkedIn post. I saw there was a lot of reaction. I knew already there was going to be a lot of reaction, but I saw the reaction that were there, and I was like, okay, let's talk about it, because I feel people have a lot to say about it.
Sure, it's an interesting topic.
Give us a little bit of your perspective with regard to Kenya, and then give us a little bit of your thought. I'm just gonna go on mute in here because I know there's some noise, some neighbor having some party here, so that you can speak. So you go.
Okay, thanks, Tony. I hope you can hear me loud and clear. For sure, this is an interesting topic, especially for the last couple of months, looking at the Kenyan perspective, and it's also replicated in several other markets in sub-Saharan African countries, whereby you realize, like locally, in the last couple of months, that is the beginning of the year, Kenyan authorities went ahead to cut power costs, which is paid by consumers. This is by 30%, and it was to be done in two phases, starting in January. And the two phases were to be done to be implemented in two tranches of 15% each. So the main thing whereby the initial move was to be reflected in power bills, that is for December and January this year, whereby it was meant to be realized through lowering systemic and commercial losses. while the second cut, which was to be implemented in the third quarter of this year, was mainly to be achieved by renegotiating power purchase agreement with independent power producers. But then again, we are yet to realize the second implementation of the second power price cuts. This is because the International Monetary Fund, that is the IMF actually, came in and blocked Kenya from further cuts on electricity prices. Definitely, you'd ask why. And the reason is they're citing a potential collapse of Kenya Power, which is the Kenyan utility company, which is currently immensely struggling with cash flow problems. And by Kenya cutting the power tariffs by 15%, as I mentioned earlier this year, in the initial phase of the two-part plan to lower power costs, again, IMF thought that this is saying that looking at the moment whereby the inflation has hit more or less a 58-month high that has seen the cost of commodities such as food and fuel go up high, it wouldn't have been quite realistic. And that's why they're saying that any future reduction in electricity tariff should be avoided unless it's fully backed by well-identified and achievable cost-saving measures to prevent deterioration of KPLC liquidity and profitability situations. But then again, Tony, as I mentioned, for the second phase, Kenya Power was to, just sit down and negotiate with the IPPs to lower their tariffs. But again, the IPPs somehow were not convinced, and that's why they ended up also saying no. But then again, how do you end up, just coming up or redesigning the tariffs? Because then again, we do realize that tariffs should be designed to be cost effective and should be structured to change behavior, etc., etc. And this should start with, a cost of service study, and then we can go ahead and analyze the study of basically just identifying areas where costs are higher than other utilities. Then there's this process whereby you go through by reviewing and also analyzing costs. And this may help also identify areas whereby you need to restructure to come up with solution that is, doable or workable, sorry. You also have to analyze the revenue potential and possibly changing the tariff structure to generate more revenue. But then again, you realize in Kenya how KPLC, that is the utility company, is not making any profit regarding the information or report that IMF is making. And here we are having them reducing the cost of electricity by 30%. Is it really realistic? That's a question that I'll leave you to, just think about as we proceed with this live discussion. Tony?
Okay. Can you hear me now, Ruth?
Yeah.
Okay. No, thanks for that. I think I really would appreciate it. I think it's also important to mention that as I was saying before, this is not just an issue that's linked to Kenya, right? So you and I know that. And to be even more specific, I know regularly what we would hear in the news, we have a company like Eskom in South Africa is going similar kind of a problem. I think Eskom has something like 30 billion, I believe, in debt, if I'm correct. And I think year on year they're posting at least 10 billion deficits. If I'm correct, dollar, right? If I'm correct, so if I'm wrong, please, guys, following us, just correct it. But if I take, for example, the example of Eskom, I know they've been passing on as well. That was some time ago. Some power cuts, right? Just like the government was doing in Kenya, but it has no work. So that clearly shows that I don't think really the response is there. Personally, I really feel like we need to be looking at how to properly, fully examine the situation, the whole system, and maybe coming up with a different business model, actually, because it's fair to say you have Kenya in fact, the reality is from all the utilities in the continent of Africa and also beyond Africa, because that's not just only a problem in Africa. A lot of emerging markets have this issue. A lot of it, I think, if you look at the state of the utilities, they are in big trouble. Yeah, put it that. And one has to properly think about, shall we maybe come up with a new business model to look at that properly? Because it's also fair to say that those utilities were built at the time countries were coming out of independence. There was a certain power demand at that time, and that model maybe fits the countries at that time. But is it still reflective now to what we're going? I don't know. Especially if you take the case of the continent of Africa. So we have a big urbanization phenomenon, right? Where people are, you know, sort of coming to cities. We have big cities that we have mega cities that we're having right now. We still have a large disconnect between on the disparity in terms of the distribution of wealth. So a lot of time, yes, if you just want to apply the cost-effective tariff, many people can't actually sustain that, can't actually pay. So is that one single model still the one to approve, or maybe should we break it into different companies? Maybe I know in the case of Excom, for example, they, from what I know, again, if I'm saying things that don't make sense, correct me, please. They were looking at splitting that into three. One company looking at the generation, another one looking at the transmission, another one in the distributions, right? So, but even if you go there, one has to understand as well what are we going to do with the debts of the mother country, because that's actually what is weighing a lot into these companies, because they're spending so much money servicing the debt, they have pretty much nothing left to sustain the maintenance of the system that they currently have in place. So what do we do with the debt? Do we just write them off? So does it mean that all the lenders, investors will accept to close their eyes into this? Not sure, but that's a question that clearly needs to be looked at. But what I'm simply saying here is we can't just resolve it saying that, hey, I'm just going to pass on a power cut, which, by the way, only going to last for some time, because in many places, when it happens, it's simply because we have some events coming up, like, for example, elections. Yeah, that some politicians want to be nice, passing down a power cut to the citizens so that they vote for the party. And once they're in power, later on, 6 months down the line, they sort of catch up definitely on that cut that they had. So it's a very complex problem, but one for me that I believe should thoroughly be analyzed, as opposed to just coming with very single artificial solution that we believe people should be able to go through. So that's the way I look at look at this. I don't know. Do you share as well this vision, Oluwach, that we need to have a deep dive analysis of the
Yeah,
system,
yeah.
or maybe you have another view?
Yes, Tony, I do agree with you. We need to have a deep analysis of the system, because then again, someone somewhere might argue, just like any other utility in sub-Saharan Africa, that Kenya Power Company is struggling with the problem of low demand, which is not commercially viable. But again, if you look at it from another key angle, is that if you are able to charge cost-reflective tariffs, these may as well mean selling electricity at a tariff way beyond the purchasing power of the end users. And besides normal production costs that are not necessarily high, we have a lot of inefficiencies in the systems that generate a lot of operational costs, some arising from basically corruption and theft through inefficient, procurement procedures. And if you factor in such costs into a tariff, this means that you may end up setting a tariff that is beyond or over and above something that your typical, let's say, household customers or even commercial and industrial customers may not be able or won't be comfortable, paying. And it may not be viable, as it may also end up depressing consumption, further leading to the collapse of the same utility, because you realize there's no any revenue that will be coming in. And my idea will be basically to deal with this problem as it is first of all, in as much as you realize, let's say, for example, here in Kenya, the government was coming in to bring in a subsidy, but is it a subsidy that is coming in for a good cause, or is it politically motivated? Because like in the next 2 weeks or so, Kenya is heading into the general elections, and someone may perceive these as some sort of politically instigated or motivated sort of action, whereby after elections, is it something that they'll continue implementing, or they'll even now either take you back to where you are or even raise the cost much higher? So it's something that if we are able to properly analyze and come up with systems that will make sense, I think that will be more of a plus. Then lastly, you also realize that a country like Kenya, and for example also, I'll give you another example whereby sometimes in either early or mid 2020, Ghana's president, by then Nana Akufo-Addo, remember him saying that the government will fully cover the bills of low-income consumers of electricity in Ghana for a couple of months. That was either in April, May, and June in 2020. And the remaining consumers who fall outside that category will enjoy a 50% reduction in the cost of electricity for that same period of time. But how did it end up working, or what were the repercussions? You realize, in as much as there was the will to have a reduction in terms of power, but again, it wasn't that much realistic. And that's why a country like Kenya, we are finding ourselves in a situation whereby IMF is blocking Kenya from further cuts on electricity prices because they're citing potential collapse from the within the utility company, because one, they're not bringing in enough revenue to sustain either the subsidies or to make this a reality. So these, according to me, are either political motivated thoughts, or they're either rash decisions, basically meant to just appease the citizens or make the government look good, but they're not realistic. That's my take on this, Tony.
Thank you very much for that, Roach. I think that's I very much appreciate that. I think you and I know that that's a topic we can talk about for ages, right? And we barely only scratching the surface here. So we now have to come to conclusions for this topic, but we have many others that we're going to be talking about. But I like to leave by sort of responding to the. By the way, thank you, Oluwach, for your contribution as usual.
Thank you, Tony.
Very much appreciated, giving us this perspective from Nairobi, Kenya, and the whole of Kenya, and with obviously some understanding as well, so other markets. So very much appreciate that. Yeah, so that's good. So, 1 second. Yeah. So, suffice to say that for me, so I just want to first of all thank you for attending that. I've not seen any question, but if you have any question, so in the next few seconds as I'm wrapping up, so I appreciate if you can drop it to us. But I just want to end up by responding to the question that we asked at the beginning, or at least like us in the title, saying that what is the just tariff? What is the just price, right? So for me, the way I look at that, so the just price, it's one that would respond to the energy trilemma, right? It's a term that is very familiar in the industry. So if you don't know what energy trilemma is, It's about making sure that you can clearly respond to the supply that is requested. That's one of the key requests for the industry. And then you want to respond as well to the affordability. Yeah, that's very key if you want a customer that can afford to pay and that can pay you in time. And the sustainability, making sure that obviously you having as well a whole generation system, transmission system, distribution system that is as clean as possible, as decarbonized as possible. You have to respond to that. And then right in the middle of it, obviously, you need to make sure that you have a business model that provides the right tariff that will respond clearly to all those, that will allow you in the business to deliver on those 3 points that I mentioned, deliver to this trilemma, the supply, the affordability, but also sustainability. But beyond that, the just price, I think somebody gave me the definition some time ago. It's a just price, it's what the customer can pay. So I would say this for me is not the just price, it's the right price, right? And it's the right price for the customer. So clearly here we need to distinguish so different stakeholders, right? So you have the government clearly has an idea in mind, want to provide power to as many people as possible. They have the interest for sure, but let's give them the benefit of the doubt. They also want to do good for their population. So then you have the investor. If I'm investing into this venture, if I'm supporting that with my capital that I could have invested somewhere else, I want to make sure that I see my return. And if I look at my financial model, it will tell me that for me to meet this return, it has to be a certain price, a certain tariff that is obviously charged to the customer. From a customer point of view, what I want to see it's something, yeah, like we say, so I can pay, but also I can pay and have a reliable service. This is actually why many customers are getting frustrated because from their perception, they're already paying quite high amount, and yet they don't even get good quality of power. You know, in many countries, quite common on a daily basis, you have a certain number of power outages. Clearly, that's not sustainable, right? So the good price for them as well is something that they can pay. They have power on a regular basis, the way they want it, and also it allows them to still have enough money for them to do whatever they need to do in terms of their commitment for the month. So that's what is the just price for everybody. Now we want to look at what is the intersection of anybody aspiration on it. And I guess if we can draw a line, we can see whether there is a common point or common area where all of that can meet. That would be the just price. And if there is not any single point where all those lines will be crossing, you want to look at obviously what is the point that is equidistant to all of it. That's what technically it will look like. How do we come to this? I guess, to be honest, I'm not I won't be arrogant to the point saying that I have a solution. I don't, right? I'm like you. I'm sort of making some recommendations, yeah. But I suspect clearly it has to be everybody coming to the table and having an open and clear discussions, whereby we can properly look at what is the whole plan for the industry. We look at what is the business model that we want to really apply or put here that could work. Look at who has tackled the solutions and have solved it before. How can we learn from them? And also realistically, what is the plan that we could see so that not one person just come and just apply or take some initiative that clearly is not serving the other people or the other stakeholders. This is for me what we could do in order to move towards what the just price would be. Hopefully that was useful enough for you guys. So let me know what you think. Do you agree with me? Do you not agree with me? Did you like the subject? Not like the subject? All of that in your comment, guys. I want to know your comment. I want to know what you think. You've been a bit quiet today. I was expecting a little bit more comments because normally you're more busy than that. I don't know because some of you are on holidays. It doesn't matter. But I know a lot of you also will be watching that afterwards. So drop me a questions. Drop me a comment. Please share. At least that's the least you can do, right? So if you can't comment, if you can't talk for now, you can share. And other people would appreciate that. And I love when you guys sharing. So this is what I have to say today. So I wanted to bring a different decor. That's why I went a little bit on my garden. So you can see, I know it was a little bit noisy, but hey, I can't stop people from having party, right? So at the end of the day, everybody needs to leave. So for me, as usual, excellent talking to you. A pleasure to have those discussions. And I can't wait to have the next conversation that we're gonna have is gonna be on Wednesday, 5:30 PST time, and after that we go back on Sunday, 2:30 PST time. So between now and then, guys, I wish you a wonderful Sunday, and may the sun be with you guys as usual. Take care.